My name is Alina. I am 30 years old. I live in Nampa. Nampa is in Canyon County, Idaho, in the United States. It is a quiet town with many small houses and kind people. I work in a small bakery near the park. I make bread, cookies, and cakes. I love my job. I love simple things. I also love my husband. His name is David. He is not like other men. He is quiet. He is gentle. He is always calm. Some people do not understand him. Some people laugh at him. But to me, he is the best man in the world. He is a true gentleman. I met David 5 years ago. It was a rainy day. I was walking home from work. I did not have an umbrella. My clothes were wet. My shoes were cold. I wanted to go inside a warm place. I saw a small bookstore. I went inside. The store was warm and smelled like paper and tea. David was there. He was behind the counter. He looked at me and smiled. He said, "Cold day, isn't it?" I said, "Yes, very cold." He gave me a small towel. He made me a cup of tea. He said, "You can sit here and rest." I said, "Thank you." That was the first time I met him. After that day, I went to the bookstore many times. Sometimes I bought books. Sometimes I only sat and read. David always said hello. He always smiled. He did not talk too much. But when he spoke, his voice was soft and kind. He told me he liked poetry. He liked quiet music. He liked to walk in the park. He liked to help people. He did not care about money or big things. He cared about feelings, about nature, and about good hearts. Many people in town did not understand David. They said he was strange. They said he was too quiet. They said he was not strong. Some people said, "He is not a real man." But I saw something different. I saw a man who listened, a man who cared, a man who never shouted, a man who gave his time to others. One day, he asked me if I wanted to have coffee. I said yes. We sat in the park and talked for hours. He told me about his life. His parents died when he was young. He lived alone. He owned the bookstore. He did not have much money, but he was happy. I liked him more and more. After 6 months, he asked me to marry him. He did not have a ring. He did not get on one knee. He just held my hands and said, "I want to take care of your heart." I cried. I said yes. I was very happy. But my parents were not happy. My mother said, "What kind of man is this?" My father said, "He does not have a real job. He is poor. He is too soft. He cannot protect you." I tried to explain. I said, "He is kind. He is good to me. I feel safe with him." But they did not listen. They said I was making a mistake. We had a small wedding. Only 5 people came. My parents did not come. My best friend was there. One old teacher from my school was there. David's neighbor came. We got married in a small garden. The weather was nice. The sky was blue. The flowers were red and white. It was a simple day, but it was full of love. That night I cried a little. I was sad my parents were not there. David held me in his arms. He said, "I am here. I will always be here." I felt warm inside. I knew I made the right choice. After the wedding, we moved into his small apartment. It was upstairs, above the bookstore. It was not big. It had one bedroom, one kitchen, one bathroom, and a small living room. But it was clean. It was warm. It was full of books. David made tea every morning. He said good morning with a smile. Every evening, he asked me about my day. He listened to every word. He never looked at his phone. He never talked about himself too much. He only wanted to know how I felt. I told him about the bakery. I told him about customers. I told him about my dreams. He always listened, but people still said bad things. One day my cousin came to visit. She looked at David and said, "This is your husband?" I said, "Yes." Later she said, "He is too quiet, too soft. You need someone stronger." I said, "He is strong. He is strong in a good way." She laughed. She did not understand. One evening we went to a dinner party at a friend's house. The house was big. The people there had big jobs. They were doctors, lawyers, and engineers. David sat next to me. He did not talk much. One man asked him, "What do you do?" David said, "I run a small bookstore." The man laughed. "Do people still read books?" Everyone laughed. David smiled. He did not say anything. He held my hand under the table. I looked at him and I felt proud. When we got home, I asked him, "Why did you not say anything back?" He said, "I do not need to fight. I know who I am." I hugged him. I was proud of him. He was quiet, but he was strong. Then I got sick. It started with a fever. Then my head hurt. Then my back hurt. I stayed in bed for many days. The doctor said I had the flu. I had no energy. I could not cook. I could not clean. I could not go to work. David took care of everything. He cooked for me. He made tea. He cleaned the house. He read to me. He stayed up at night when I could not sleep. He gave me medicine. He put a cold towel on my head. One night, I woke up and saw him sleeping in a chair next to my bed. He looked so tired. I touched his hand and said, "Thank you." He smiled and said, "I love you." I cried. I was so thankful. When I got better, my parents came to visit. They looked around the small apartment. My mother said, "You live here." My father said, "You could have done better." I did not say anything. David brought them tea. He said, "Please, sit down." They did not smile. They did not drink the tea. That night after they left, I saw pain in David's eyes. But he said nothing. He only asked me, "Are you okay?" I said yes. But I knew something had to change. I wanted the world to see the man I saw. I wanted them to know his heart. I wanted them to see my husband for who he truly was. A quiet, gentle, kind man. A real gentleman. Before I share the rest of my story, I need to know, where are you listening from? Knowing someone hears me, understands me, gives me strength. After my parents visited, things felt different. I still loved David, and he still loved me. But their words stayed in my mind. I started to think too much. Was I wrong? Did I choose the wrong life? My friends had big houses and cars. Some of them went on holidays and bought new things. I had none of that, but I had peace. I had love. I had a man who smiled at me every morning. Still, I felt sad when people looked down on him. At the bakery, my coworker Anna asked me about David. I told her he was good to me. She smiled and said, "That's nice, but don't you want more?" I asked, "More of what?" She said, "More money, a better home, a man with goals." Her words hurt me, but I did not show it. I only said, "I have what I need." When I walked home, I cried. I knew David did not have much, but he gave me love. He gave me time. He gave me respect. That was more than what many women had. One evening, David came home with a small box. He said, "This is for you." I opened it. It was a pen, a simple black pen. I looked at him. "Why a pen?" I asked. He said, "You always write small notes. I thought you would like it." I smiled. It was not expensive, but it showed he knew me. He saw the small things. I wrote a note that night. "Thank you for loving me in your quiet way." I left the note next to his pillow. The next day, something happened at the bookstore. David helped an old man who could not see well. The man dropped his books. David picked them up and walked him home. A woman saw this and posted about it online. She wrote, "This man is kind. He helped my father and asked for nothing." Many people saw the post. Some people came to the store just to meet David. They said, "We read about you. You are a good man." David smiled but said very little. He did not care about attention. He just liked to help. The next week, a man from the local paper came. He said, "We want to write a story about you." David said, "Why?" The man said, "Because people need to read about good people." I was there. I said, "Please do it, David. Maybe this will help others see the real you." David said yes, only because I asked. The story came out 2 days later. The title was "The Gentleman Who Runs a Bookstore." It talked about his life, how he lost his parents, how he helped others, how he lived simply but kindly. The writer said, "He is the kind of man the world needs." When I read it, I cried. I was so proud of him. My parents saw the article. My mother called. She said, "We read the story. We did not know all this." I said, "You never asked." She said, "We want to visit again." I told David. He only said, "If that makes you happy." They came the next day. My father shook David's hand. My mother smiled at him. She said, "We brought you some cake." David said thank you and made tea. This time, they drank the tea. They asked him about books. He told them about his favorite stories. He spoke slowly and clearly. My parents listened. They looked at him with different eyes. I felt warm inside. I held David's hand under the table. He looked at me and smiled. After they left, I asked, "How do you feel?" He said, "Better. I think they are trying." I said, "Yes. It means a lot to me." That night we walked to the park. The air was cool. The stars were out. I said, "Thank you for not giving up." He said, "Love is not about giving up. It's about staying, even when it's hard." I stopped walking. I looked at him. I kissed his cheek. I said, "I love you." He said, "I love you too." A few weeks later, David got sick. It was just a cold at first, but then it got worse. He had a high fever. He could not eat much. He slept a lot. I took care of him like he took care of me. I cooked soup. I gave him medicine. I stayed beside him. One night, he looked at me and said, "I'm sorry." I asked, "Why?" He said, "Because you deserve more. You work so hard. I give so little." I shook my head. I said, "You give me love. That is enough." He got better slowly. After 10 days, he could walk around. He opened the bookstore again. People asked about him. They said, "We missed you." Some brought flowers. Some brought food. One woman said, "You helped me last year. I will never forget that." David smiled. He said, "Thank you." When I saw that, I felt proud. The man people once laughed at was now the man people respected. One afternoon, a young boy came into the store. He had no money. He looked at a book about animals David watched him. Then he walked over and said, "Do you like this book?" The boy said yes. David said, "You can take it." The boy smiled wide. "For free?" he asked. David said, "Yes. Just read it well." The boy ran out, happy. I walked over to David. I said, "That was kind." He said, "Books should be shared, not kept away." That evening, I made dinner. We sat on the floor because we did not have a big table. We ate rice and vegetables. David said, "I like this life." I said, "Me too." He said, "Even when it's small?" I said, "Even then. Especially then." We did not have much. We did not have gold or big cars. But we had love, peace, and kindness. And I knew something clearly that day. The world may not always understand a quiet man, but I did. I understood him deeply, and I would stand beside him no matter what. One morning, I woke up early. The sun was not up yet. The room was quiet. David was still asleep beside me. I looked at his face. He looked so calm. I touched his hand and smiled. I thought, this is my life. It is not rich. It is not full of big things. But it is good. It is full of love. After some time, I got up and made tea. I sat near the window. I could see the small trees outside. A little bird came and sat on the windowsill. It sang a soft song. I listened and felt at peace. That day at the bakery, I had a long shift. My boss asked me to stay 2 hours more. I was tired, but I said yes. David always worked long hours too, so I wanted to help. When I got home, he had made dinner. It was a simple soup with bread. He had also cleaned the kitchen. He smiled and said, "You must be tired. Sit down." I sat down and looked at him. He brought me food. I said, "Thank you. You always take care of me." He said, "Because I love you." After dinner, we talked about the future. I said, "Do you ever want to move to a bigger house?" He said, "Maybe, but only if you want to." I said, "I like this place, but maybe one day, if we have children, we will need more space." He looked at me. He said, "You want children?" I said, "Yes, one day." He smiled and said, "Then I will read books to them every night." I laughed and said, "And I will bake them cookies." Weeks passed. Our life was simple and happy. My parents visited more often. My mother brought fresh fruit. My father helped David fix a broken chair. One day my father said, "He may be quiet, but he is a good man." I smiled and said, "Yes, he is the best." My mother said, "We were wrong before." I said, It's okay. I know you only wanted the best for me. That day, I saw David sitting with my father. They were drinking tea and talking about books. I felt warm in my heart. They finally saw what I saw. One evening, it started to rain. David and I sat near the window and watched the drops fall. I said, "Do you remember the first time we met?" He said, "Yes." You walked into the bookstore. You were wet and cold. I said, "And you gave me tea." He said, "You looked tired, but your eyes were kind." I laughed and said, "I was trying to dry my hair with a small towel." He laughed too. Then he said, "That was the best day of my life." I looked at him and said, "Mine too." Sometime later, the landlord came. He said the building was for sale. The bookstore and our home were part of it. He said we had to move in 2 months. I felt scared. Where would we go? How would we move the books? David said, "Don't worry. We will find a way." I trusted him. We looked for new places every day. Some were too small. Some were too far. Some were too expensive. Then one day, a woman came to the bookstore. She said, "I have a shop that is empty. You can rent it for a small price. I read about you. I want to help." David said, "Thank you" again and again. We moved 2 weeks later. The new shop was on a quiet street. It had big windows and wooden floors. We put the books on shelves. We placed a small table near the door. I baked cookies for the first day. People came, some old friends, some new people. They said, "We are happy you are still here." One girl said, "This is my favorite place." David smiled. He said, "Books are like friends. They wait for you. They never shout." We also moved into a new apartment. It was small but clean. It had 2 bedrooms. I was happy because we could use the extra room one day for a baby. David said, "It will be the library until then." I laughed and said, "Okay." Then something wonderful happened. I found out I was pregnant. I cried. David held me and said, "Thank you." I said, "For what?" He said, "For giving me a family." The next 9 months were not easy. I felt tired. I felt sick. But David helped with everything. He read baby books. He made me tea every morning. He put pillows behind my back. He cleaned the house. He talked to my belly and said, "Hello, little one." One night I had strong pain. David took me to the hospital. After many hours, our baby came. It was a girl. She had soft black hair and big brown eyes. We named her Grace. David held her in his arms. He cried. I had never seen him cry before. He said, "You are perfect." When we went home, he made a sign that said, "Welcome, Grace." He put it near the door. Life changed after Grace came. We slept less. We worked more. But we were happy. David sang to her every night. He held her when she cried. He kissed her small hands. One day, I saw him sitting in the chair, Grace asleep on his chest. He was tired, but smiling. I thought, this is love. This is a real man. Not loud, not rich, but full of love. Now Grace is 3. She loves books. She always sits in her father's lap and says, "Read, Papa." David reads with a soft voice. She listens like the world is quiet. I watch them and feel proud. I remember all the times people said he was not enough. I remember when my parents did not come to the wedding, but now they visit every week. They bring toys and cookies. They laugh with David. They hug Grace. Things are different now. People still ask me, is he still running that small bookstore? I say, yes, and it is full of joy. They ask, don't you want more? I say, I already have more. I have peace. I have love. I have a true gentleman. I look at my life now and feel full, not full of things, full of meaning. David was never loud. He never needed to be. His love was enough. His heart was enough. His kindness was enough. And every day I thank life for giving him to me